The Grand Canyon in Arizona amazes all who behold its wonder and majestic beauty. But we're not at the Grand Canyon. In fact, we're not even in Arizona. We're actually in southern Georgia at Providence State Park, and I'm going to tell you all about it right now. Right now. Right? What's that? I have to have 1,000 subscribers for the YouTube Snap thing to work? Okay, well, I'll tell you how you can get me to 1,000 subscribers later in the video, and we'll be able to do the Snap thing. But for now, we just have to do our normal intro. 150 miles southwest of Atlanta, you'll find something in nature that isn't really natural, but it looks natural. Make sense? Well, it will after you watch this video. Georgia's Grand Canyon, also known as Providence Canyon State Park, is just south of Columbus, Georgia, home of Fort Benning. And Fort Benning, Georgia is home of the infantry. I happen to know a little bit about Fort Benning. I trained there almost 20 years and 70 pounds ago. So it's sort of funny that I had never heard of Providence Canyon State Park. Carolyn actually found this location on the internet. This is our first time here, and it's likely that you clicked on this video just because you've never heard of it either. In fact, most people from Georgia don't know about this particular park. But before we get started, if you're a subscriber or follower of A Nose for Life, I just want to say welcome back, and I hope you'll take the time to like and share this video on your favorite social media site. Our channel continues to grow because you're watching and sharing this content, so you're a pivotal part in our success. If you're new to A Nose for Life, welcome, and I'm so thankful you're giving the video content we create a chance. Be sure to check out our other videos as well, and consider subscribing to A Nose for Life and following us on Facebook at Bill Marion Life. On July 18th at 8 a.m., A Nose for Life is going on a hiking trip at the Lost Creek Recreation Area in Polk County, Tennessee, and everyone is invited. Send me a message via Facebook and let me know if you're interested. This trip is for people of all ages, and I'm really excited, and I hope to hear from you soon. We're here at Georgia's Grand Canyon, or Providence Canyon Park, and it is hot. I think it's probably about, 95, 96 degrees. And of course, Carolyn came up with the idea for this trip, and it's going to be worth it. It does look a little bit like the Grand Canyon, but it's not the Grand Canyon. I will say this, the park though itself is very nice. You notice they have bathrooms. Those are normal working bathrooms behind us. And of course, this is a beautiful area to have great picnics in. So when you come down here to visit, not only you have this awesome Georgia Canyon, which was made by erosion, they say, from farms, 200 years ago. They say they use the historical record for that to kind of come up with the idea of how this was formed, but it's kind of vague, and I'm looking for more information about that. So if you have any additional information about how this was formed, put it in the comments below. But it's a great park to check out and visit here in South Georgia. We're just about 30 minutes from Fort Benning, Georgia, Columbus, Georgia, and it looks just like Fort Benning. So if you trained at Fort Benning and you know anything about the base there at Fort Benning, it looks just like it, except there's a huge canyon here. So you have these signs about not going on the trail if you have a heart problem. That's probably something you should really consider before heading out here. The trails, the little hilltops are actually down in a valley, and they were created by poor farming methods, 150 years ago. But the thing is that even though the hills are small, the incline is pretty steep. So your heart is definitely going to pound on the way up and down the different inclines. So you want to make sure, if you have a heart condition, make sure you consult your doctor before you hit a trail like this. So yeah, we're walking down into the canyon now, and as you can see from all of the signs, it can be kind of crazy as far as the ground giving out from you around the canyon rim. It is definitely different. I know that they call it the Grand Canyon of the East, or Georgia's Grand Canyon, but it's definitely different as far as the composition of the soil, and you're definitely still east of the Mississippi for that matter. But the trail on the way down here, it's kind of rough. You're gonna want to be careful. Definitely wear hiking boots. Definitely wear a pair of boots or a pair of tennis shoes that you don't care to get stained red, because everything here has a certain color stain to it that it's beautiful, but it'll stain the inside of your floorboards quickly. Providence Canyon Park is about 2.5 to 3 hours from Panama City, so it's a great place to go. Like if you're coming from the north to Panama City, a little excursion. Again, it's about 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes from Fort Benning. You're actually close to the Fort Benning base, the training facility itself. But as far as the open gates at Fort Benning, where you can get a visitor's pass and go on the base, which we did today. We actually got a pass there at the visitor center and went riding around base and had a great time. And just went to Sand Hill. If you're familiar with Fort Benning, you know all about Sand Hill, and it's how amazing that place is. Now, we're here on a holiday, so there wasn't a lot of activity at all. Things were kind of dead at the base right now. Not a lot of activity at all. So we enjoyed just going down range and seeing how amazing Fort Benning is.
Heat is something to talk about. Because if you come to this part of the country anytime in the summertime, to South Georgia, South Alabama, South Mississippi, you have to understand it's a whole different kind of hell heat here. I think we're 4 exits from hell. So you definitely want to keep that in mind and be prepared. So we're at the bottom of all of these canyons. Now there are several different canyons, and here is sort of like the creek bed, if you will, that is said to have carved out most of these canyons. It's kind of dried up right now. There's just a sort of a small layer of water at the bottom. If you've noticed the color, it's this burnt kind of orange rusty look, but it's absolutely beautiful. And there's different shades of this color all around us everywhere you go. Any place where there's like a little pond or collection of water, it's this rusty burnt orange looking color. It's quite beautiful.
Officially, these canyons were not created naturally. Rather, they are the result of poor farming practices during the early 1800s. It's said to have worked like this. The forest was cleared, the soil was plowed, and crops were planted, but soil erosion simply wasn't considered. At first, I have to admit it, but I wasn't buying the official story. It didn't make a lot of sense that in just 150 years, soil erosion caused all of this. It's not that I believe some grand conspiracy about the Grand Canyon of Georgia or anything. I mean, if there is a conspiracy about the Providence Recreation Area in Georgia, I've never heard it. But the explanation seemed too much to accept. But after hiking just one trail, I started seeing the light.
One thing's for sure, it's definitely hot in South Georgia. I can't stress this enough. If you're not used to the heat, or you're from the Northeast, North Midwest, or just anywhere north of the Mason-Dixon line, this is one of those places where you really do need to prepare for extreme kind of weather. It's very hot. In fact, I would recommend visiting this park sometime in the spring or even winter. It's actually so hot that my iPhone choked out, so to speak. I got that little warning about the flash being too hot, so I had to turn my phone off and I'm using Carolyn's now. Here's the thing, as far as taking kids, I'm always asked about family activities when we go to different state parks. How is it for families? I would say this, it depends on how active your family is before I would take them up down these trails. First of all, it's the middle of summer, so it's very hot. You need lots of water. Second of all, it's another place where you're gonna need mosquito repellent, some type of insect repellent because of ticks and mosquitoes and so on. You are in the deep south. But it really depends on how active your kids are. The trails some of them are pretty intense, so it's definitely a little more intense than, let's say, some of the trails in Polk County, Tennessee, where we shoot a lot of our videos. There's a lot of stuff on the trail, roots and whatnot coming off the trees, a lot of sand and different types of dirt to trip over, so to speak. So it really depends on how active your kids are, how used to the woods your kids are, as far as the whole family. I would say you would need to understand that most of the sights to see are on trails, so it's a hiking adventure. It's not as much of a car adventure. And even around the rim of the canyon, you have to get out of your car. So this isn't something you just do a car trip for. You are interactive involved. Now, I know with our family, that's a big deal. We like getting out of the car. We want to be on the hiking trails. I've had my kids on some pretty severe hiking trails, pretty intense hiking trails since they were knee-high to a grasshopper. So you would want to keep that in mind coming to a park like this where the trails are by nature literally pretty intense. Here at the bottom of the canyons, I mean, again, there's several different canyons, and we're kind of in the middle right now of a whole bunch of different canyons here in Georgia. And behind me are all these cars that were a part of a homestead before this place was made into a state park or national park, whatever the case is. And they're pretty cool because the scientists here wouldn't let them remove these vehicles because they said that it would do more damage moving the vehicles to the environment than just leaving them here. And it's funny because a lot of birds and animals kind of make these cars their home, and they're vintage cars, so it's kind of neat. So Carol and I are talking about all these cars that you're gonna see along the trail here, and they got this sign up that says, look, the animals make a home out of these old cars, and maybe that's true, but if I'm a squirrel, I'm not gonna live in an old car. I'm gonna live up in the trees. And we didn't really see any animals nesting or anything living in these cars. I guess they could. I know that if you sink certain structures underneath the water, it attracts fish. I mean, if you live in the Tennessee Valley, you see signs everywhere if you're on the lake saying, fish attractor. Out here, I don't see how an animal would prefer the inside of a trunk of an old car that's rusted out versus being in their natural habitat, but maybe that's just me. You hear this stuff all the time about the West Coast and Arizona, that southwest part of the United States being a dry heat. People make jokes about it all the time. Listen, I totally get that because, we're here in South Georgia, and you see that behind me, it's really pretty and green and beautiful, and yet it is so hot. And I've been to the high deserts out west in the middle of the summer when it's 105 degrees plus and it's hot, and it is not as hot and miserable as it can be here in the southeast part of the US. So again, one of the things that I do want to warn you about, if you're coming through here at spring break or whatever, it's a great time of the year. Spring, winter, and late fall would be a great time to come visit this place. But if you're not used to southeastern heat, southern Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, Florida, if that's just not what you're used to, this would not be the place to come until the weather cools off. And that's just sort of like one of those personal things that, you know, hey, it's my content channel. I get to say that kind of stuff. I would wait until it's cooler in the year. And I don't normally say that kind of stuff because I normally encourage people to go to every park. But if you're not used to the heat, see what that looks like behind me? That looks like heat. And again, hell is just 4 exits from here. I'm kidding, it's a joke. A special shout out to Toby Downs and several other people who gave us a shout out on Facebook, on our Facebook page at Bill Marion Life. Toby was the one that said, hey, you got to check out those cars that are at the bottom of the canyon. And again, the bottom of the canyon is sort of relative because you're actually on these rolling hills that are pretty steep at times to get to these cars. But Toby, thank you for the suggestion. And if you have a suggestion, you do just what Toby did. Go to our Facebook page at Bill Marion Life. And hey, if you got a suggestion for a video, we want to hear all about it. Now, one of the other things about coming in the summertime is that a lot of the views on these trails are sort of hidden by the foliage in the trees. Another reason that you might want to consider coming in the late fall or winter months or early spring, I would always check the website to make sure that the trails are open. Inclement weather could wash these trails out. Something that we've noticed is that erosion is a problem here. As we were walking up the trails, you could see where summer rains are washing the trails out, and they've probably been manicured and taken care of already this year, but they're washing out quickly. And so it's probably constant maintenance here to keep the trails somewhat navigable all year round. So erosion is definitely a problem. When you look at the structures, the formations behind me, you can see why they call it the Grand Canyon of Georgia, or Georgia's Grand Canyon, or the Little Grand Canyon. It was obviously formed differently. And it's hard to believe that poor farming practices would have carved out these canyons, but the more Carol and I have looked around these trails, the more that is exactly what it looks like. And it's mostly because of the way the soil is, the type of soil that's here, and the type of sediment that's in the area. All the rain just washes everything out. So if you're farming and you don't take any kind of precautions, the soil just washes out from under you. But it's still very beautiful, and they've done a great job at creating this park.
Folks, it's hot out there. And I'm pretty sure my forehead is sunburned. But it was worth it. I had a good time.
Carolyn's right. It is definitely hot. So I was at the souvenir shop or the Welcome Center, and Carol and I were, getting a couple of drinks after we finished hiking, and the park ranger was telling us that it's essentially a man-made giant hole that looks a lot like the Grand Canyon, and because of that, the wind just doesn't move down there. I want to thank you for watching this video. Carol and I love sharing our adventures with you, and we hope that you'll subscribe if you're not a subscriber already, or follow us on Vidme. Be sure to join our Facebook page as well. We love our Facebook page. We can get information out to you quickly that way, and that's at Bill Marion Life. You can also follow us on Twitter, and I got to be honest with you, I'm learning to use Twitter, still learning to use Twitter. Hey, look, I earned these white hairs. I'm old, so it's taking me some time, but you can follow us on Twitter at Bill and Carolyn. And Carolyn is spelled C-A-R-O-L-I-N-E. It's kind of spelled like Caroline, but anyway, thank you so much for watching this video, and we'll hope to have another video out to you in just a few days.
Oh, and in case I didn't mention it, it was really hot.